Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to A Different Door. I'm Sarah. I'm the youth minister here at Grace Avenue, and I am so glad to be here with you this morning. During this sermon series, during the month of July, our pastors have been rotating around to preach in different services. So Christopher is over in the sanctuaries this morning, and Carol is upstairs teaching a Sunday school class. And so we get to have the awesome and amazing Reverend Jessica Lowe here with us this morning to finish off our Summer Lights, Camera, Action series. We've been talking about hearing from different people about some different movies that they love to talk about, and what we can learn from them and some action items that we can get from them. And so this morning, as we finish up this series, Jessica's going to talk about Finding Nemo for us this morning, which I'm super excited about. So Jessica, why don't you tell us about Finding Nemo, why you chose it, and what we're talking about this morning?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Finding Nemo is one of my favorite Disney Pixar movies, and it also gives me those summer vibes, probably because it's set in the ocean, so you've got this diverse cast of sea creatures, and I always think about beach and water, summertime, and I just think it's one of those movies that there's so many life lessons that you can take away from it, that each time I watch it in different seasons of life, I take a different piece of that message with me. And so if you aren't familiar with the movie, or maybe it's been a few years since you watched it, I'll give you a brief recap of it. So it's the story of this clownfish named Marlin is the dad, and his son is Nemo. And he's quite an overprotective, maybe a little overbearing father. They had some tragic circumstances when Nemo was born. His, wife fish, partner fish, died, and a lot of their eggs that they had laid died, and the only one that was left was little Nemo, and it even got a little damaged, and so one of his fins is a little shorter than the others. And so his dad, as he's watching his son grow up, always wants to be protective and make sure nothing happens to him. And then early on in the movie, Nemo ends up getting caught and captured by a human scuba diver and separated from his father. And so the movie is about this quest that Marlin takes on to find and rescue his son. And as both father and son kind of make efforts to reunite with each other, they both grow and mature. They learn lessons along the way. They have to trust other people. They have to trust in themselves. They have to risk and brave fearful circumstances. And it's, quite a heartwarming story. Yes. And one of the, main lessons that we can take away from this film is also one of the most famous quotes that people remember for it, which is the line, "Just keep swimming." So you might be familiar with that sentence. And this line appears several times throughout the movie, but the first time it occurs, it is said by Dory, who is a blue tang fish, who's a main character in this story. And she and Marlin are working together to try to find Nemo. And Dory doesn't offer much in the way of help. She suffers from short-term memory loss, and she does have an optimistic spark. But one skill set she does have that proves very useful is she can read. She's a fish that knows how to read English. And so when the fish discover a swim mask that was dropped by the same scuba diver who captured Nemo, Marlin has his first real lead in where his son has been taken. And so he is desperate to have Dory read the address on the mask. But unfortunately, it begins to slip through their fingers. And so we have a clip here of when that line is first said.
Wow, Dusty.
The mask! Where's the mask? No, the mask! Get it! Get the mask! Get the mask! Get it!
Woohoo! La 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 la. Just keeps going on, doesn't it? Echo! Hey, what you doing?
It's gone. I've lost the mask.
Where'd you drop it?
You dropped it! That was my only chance of finding my son. Now it's gone!
Hey, Mr. Grumpy Gills.
When life gets you down, you know what you gotta
I
do?
don't want to know what you got to do.
Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming, swimming. What do? We swim, swim.
Dory, no singing.
Oh,
Dory.
I love to swim. And
Dory.
when you want to swim, you want
See,
to
I'm going to get stuck now with that song. Now it's in my head.
Sorry.
So they do recover the mask eventually, but as you can see, Marlin starts off strong going after it, and then it's too dark, it's too scary, it's too impossible.
We can kind of see the differences in their personalities and their approach to life in this clip a lot, right? Marlin is filled with fear and anxiety, and he's so scared, and this task in front of him seems like it's too much, and Dory is just unworried. She's just going to keep swimming. She's having fun. She's not worried about it. And she has this saying, this mantra of just keep swimming. Mm-hmm. When things are scary, just keep swimming. When it seems hopeless, just keep swimming. When the thing you need seems like it's too far away, just keep swimming. And this is like a crazy concept to Marlin, who is so afraid. Mm-hmm. He thinks it's too deep, it's too far, all hope is lost, and Dory comes in to give him this gift, this reminder to just keep swimming.
Right.
Just keep swimming.
And it's such a simple idea, but so often when we too find ourselves in that paralyzing moment, whether it's fear or anxiety or even despair and hopelessness that Marlin was clearly sinking into, really, sometimes all that we need is that reminder, is someone to come alongside us and encourage us to just take the next step, to just keep moving forward, even when we don't know where that will eventually lead. And I think so much of this relates to our faith as well, because ultimately, faith isn't about knowing where the end point is, right? We don't get to see often what the finish line looks like. And yet God still calls us to keep moving forward, to keep taking that next best right step, trusting that we will eventually get to where God is calling us to go.
And one great example of having to put an immense amount of trust in God in the Bible is the story of the Israelites coming out of Egypt, being led by Moses. And so this is the scripture that you've chosen for this morning. And so I'd love to read some of that story so we can see how people have had to trust in God and live out their faith, even in these like seemingly large and insurmountable circumstances. So the scripture I'm going to read this morning comes from Exodus chapter 14, verses 10 through 18, and then verses 21 and 22. And so here is what happens. As Pharaoh drew near, the Israelites looked back, and there were Egyptians advancing on them. In great fear, the Israelites cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us, bringing us out of Egypt? Is this not the very thing we told you in Egypt? Let us alone and let us serve the Egyptians. For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness." But Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm and see the deliverance that the Lord will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you will have only to keep still." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Why do you cry out to me? Tell the Israelites to go forward, but lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, that the Israelites may go into the sea on dry ground. Then I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them, and so I will gain glory for myself over Pharaoh and all his army, his chariots and his chariot drivers. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gained glory for myself over Pharaoh, his chariots, and his chariot drivers." Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. The Lord drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night and turned the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. The Israelites went onto the sea on dry ground, the waters forming a wall for them on their right and on their left.
Yeah, so this story might be familiar to some of us, but it essentially takes place. Moses has led the Israelites out of Egypt, right? They have been held there as slaves for hundreds of years. Pharaoh has been this brutal taskmaster, and with the help of God, Pharaoh has released the Israelites. But he then has second thoughts, decides, wait, what have I just done? I've just let all of our slaves go free. And so he then comes after them with this army. And they approach the Red Sea and essentially have this boundary of the sea in front of them, the army at their back. And the Israelites immediately, as they often do in this story, turn to despair. They immediately start complaining to Moses, their leader, wondering, like, why? Why did you even lead us out here, right? It would have been better for us to just stay as slaves than be led all the way out here to die. And, it's always amazing to me, I think, when we read stories like this in Scripture, where the people have just experienced a miracle, right? Like delivery from disaster by God. They've just experienced all the plagues in Egypt. They have seen God remain steadfast to free them from their oppressor. And yet, at the first sign of an obstacle, they immediately, it's like they forget everything that has happened and immediately are like, why, God, why? It's just, it's relatable, I think, for us too as people. But then we see this other miracle happen that God tells Moses to stretch his staff out, the waters part. The Israelites are able to cross on dry land, and we didn't finish with the rest of the passage, but the army follows in after them, and God tells Moses, stretch his hand over the water again, and the waters fall back down, destroying Pharaoh's armies and ensuring that the Israelites have this pathway to safety. Yes.
And I do, as I was thinking about this story this week, we often give the Israelites and other characters in the Bible a hard time when they, have this reaction and, we feel like they don't get it. But also, it happens to us in our lives, too. Something happens, and we just can't see another way out. We can't see what way we should go forward. We can't see how we could possibly come up against this large task or problem of the world. We feel like Marlon, where he's just watching this, these goggles with the key to getting his son just sinking into the darkness of, that ravine. And it just feels like there's nothing we can do. We can't go forward. And so we give the Israelites a hard time, but imagine the amount of fear that they were feeling. There's armies behind them. The ocean is in front of them. They don't feel like they have anywhere else to go. And so they forget that it's not really about what they can do, but it's about what God does with them and through them and next to them and for them and alongside them. And sometimes I feel like this. Sometimes I feel like Marlon just watching hope sort of sink into the darkness. I feel like the Israelites feeling crushed or pinned in or trapped. And we forget that it's not solely up to us. We forget that God walks alongside us in those times and works through us and works with us. And the thought of trying to push back against some of that, despair and hopelessness and fear seems too much. But then we have this, little voice, maybe annoying to us, maybe not, that says, just keep swimming. Right. Just keep swimming. So how do we do that when we're up against this fear or this despair? How do we keep swimming? What do we do?
Well, I think it's important that we remember that God doesn't call us to give up, right? And God doesn't often call us to easy tasks. Being Christians in the world around us is not an easy choice or an easy pathway. We see that modeled in Jesus, right? Jesus didn't come to earth and have a grand old time. We are called to do hard and difficult things. But I think the key that we also see in the story of Jesus is God doesn't call us to do those things alone. Even Jesus, the Son of God, who came with all of this knowledge, also called disciples. He didn't try to do this alone. He did it in community. And he called for those disciples to go forth and build more community, to spread this message, to spread this momentum so that it's not just us doing it alone. Because you're right, there's so much happening in our world today that can fill us with despair and that can fill us with hopelessness. I relate to Marlon in so many ways. I feel like, there are days where maybe I will read a news story or I will hear a story about someone and just be who is suffering or who is oppressed, and I'll be inspired and I'll be filled with all this motivation to like go out and change things, right? I'm like, this isn't fair, this isn't just, I want to be a part of the solution. And I'll get all excited like Marlon, like when he's going after those goggles initially, and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna figure this out, we're gonna make the world a better place. And then you go, and then you start to look around and you're like, oh, it's actually kind of dark and kind of uncertain, and I don't actually know where the goggles went, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know, and then you just start panicking, you swim back up, and you cling to the rock where you feel safe. And then that's when that despair starts to come in, because you're like, how do I do this alone? Yeah. And I think often we can't do it alone. And just like Marlon has Dory, we too have one another. And I think that's really a key, is having that community. Yeah.
And also knowing, and we'll talk about this here with our next clip in just a moment, but like knowing that we don't have to solve the biggest problem of the world every time, right? But just taking those small next steps. I mean, the Israelites are standing on the shore of the sea, and they're thinking like, we have to survive all of this time in the wilderness and find this land that's been promised to us. But in that moment, all they needed to do was get across. All they needed to do was keep walking. All they needed to do was trust that God was going to take care of them and walk across this land that has been, revealed to them when Moses parted the sea with God's power. Marlon is thinking, I've got to find these goggles. I have to figure out how to read them. I have to figure out how to navigate the human world and find my son. But in that moment, all he needed to do was keep swimming down. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to do everything yet. He just has to reach the goggles, keep moving, keep going forward, and not give up. Yeah. And so it doesn't always have to be, we don't always have to have like the answer to solve the biggest of the world's problems, but we are called to and equipped, I think, to meet small needs every day, take little steps with the lives that we lead and the influence that we have in the world around us. And that combined with the small steps that the other people are taking around us in community can make a really big difference.
Right. So much of this movie is about perseverance. Both Marlon and Nemo have to persevere through numerous challenges and obstacles to try to reunite with one another. And there are so many times when either or both of them could have just given up. Could have just said, like, it's too hard. I'd rather just live with, the grief that I won't have this person of my family with me anymore. But they didn't give up. They kept going. And I think what we also see in the movie is this perseverance, not just of an individual, but perseverance of community acting together. And there's one scene in particular that has always stuck with me. It actually happens near the end of the movie. Marlon and Nemo do get reunited, so spoiler alert, sorry. Yes, so it does end happily, but they are only really able to celebrate this joy of reunification for a brief moment, because once again, we have human intervention. We have a fishing vessel that is on the water that has just cast out this huge net that is catching all of these large fish in it. And so as Marlon and Nemo are celebrating their newfound togetherness, they see this happening, and their friend, their steadfast, loyal companion, Dory, gets caught up in this net with all of these fish. So let's watch this scene together.
Nemo, no!
We have to tell all the fish to swim down together!
Get out of there now!
I know this will work!
No, I am not gonna lose you again!
Dad, there's no time! It's the only way we can save Dory! I can do this!
You're right. I know you can.
Lucky Finn!
Now go! Hurry!
Tell all the fish to swim down!
Well, you heard my son? Come on!
Dory, you have to tell everybody to
Swim down together! You understand what I'm saying to you? Swim down!
Everybody swim down! Come on, you have to swim down!
Swim down, okay?
Down!
So once again, we have this like mantra of just keep swimming, but this time it's not just keep swimming, it's keep swimming together, keep swimming in the same direction, keep working together to achieve something together that any one singular fish in that net could not have achieved on their own. And we see Marlin having to trust that Nemo can accomplish this. He's the only one that can swim in and out of the net. And he had learned about, if you swim down in a net, it'll break, when he was away from his dad on his other adventures. And so Marlin has to sort of let go of some of this fear and trust his son and trust Dory that was in there too, and inspire the group to not just keep swimming, but keep swimming together, keep moving in the same direction together. And this is what it's like sometimes. This is what it's like in the world when we're up against these different things, when we're starting to feel that hopelessness and that despair. If any of the fish in that net had given into that hopelessness, they would not have been able to all work together to pull it down. And so even though each of us might feel or be limited in what we can achieve individually, when we work together in community, when we just keep swimming together, we can often accomplish together what at first seems impossible and insurmountable.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, whenever we are all pulling towards the same goal, we can accomplish amazing things. And we see that throughout history as well. Big social movements, big changes that have occurred in our country and other countries happen when a group of regular, ordinary people work together towards the same goal, towards the same ideal, when they're all swimming down together. And like you said, if any of those fish had succumbed to panic, right, to hopelessness, or if each of them had just been focused on their own survival and trying to get out of the net themselves, it would not have worked. It's about working together for the greater good, trusting that you can have a bigger impact in a community than solo. And it's difficult, I think now, especially where we are in our world, to resist the temptation to give up. It just feels so big that we could make a difference. But whenever people start to believe that change is impossible, that's when people stop trying, right? That's when kind of the apathy sets in, because it feels like too much, and so we just disengage. We turn away, we turn off. And there was actually a research experiment done back in the 80s with dogs and some electric shocks. So, not great. I said 1960s. It was 1960s. So, it was a different time. Although, yeah, it's okay. But so these experiments were done with dogs, and they started out with these two groups of dogs in these cages. And basically, with the group A, they would administer an electric shock, like the floor would have like an electric shock on it. And the dog could stop the electric shock by pushing on a lever. And so in group A, the dogs learned that they could push the lever, the shock would stop, the pain would stop. In group B, the dogs were in the same kind of box, also had a lever, but it didn't do anything. So they could push the lever as many times as they wanted. They were powerless to stop the electric shock. They then took these same two groups of dogs and put them in a different experiment. In this one, it was still where the floor of the cage would send an electric shock, but there was like this small partition that they would just jump over, and that side of the cage was not going to give them an electric shock. So the group A dogs, the dogs who had learned that, okay, I have some agency here. If I do this action, the pain stops. Those dogs quickly learn, jump over the partition, get to the safe side of the cage, all good. But the dogs in group B, the ones who learned that nothing they did would control their fate, they just laid down and whined. They didn't even attempt to jump over the partition. And these researchers actually found that it took them going in with the dog and physically moving their legs to put them over the partition to the safe side. They had to do that twice before these dogs would start to attempt to rescue themselves, essentially. And this theory is called learned helplessness. And really, it happens with us too. When we're in a situation where we feel out of control and we can't change our fate or the fate of those around us, we just stop trying. But God doesn't call us to stop trying. God calls us to just keep swimming. And God calls us to just keep swimming together.
Yeah. And the ways that, I just keep swimming, the ways that I respond to some of the things in the world that I see that break my heart are maybe different than some of the ways that you do that. But when we join in community together, especially when we're in communities like this, when we're in a faith community, we can cheer each other on, we can help each other, we can, remind each other that helplessness doesn't have to be our only response to the bigness of the world. Right. And we can join together to make change that we want to see in the world and make good in the world. And even if it feels small to us individually, we can respond to the evils and injustice and oppression in the world by combining those small actions together. Just like those fish in that net, we can just keep swimming in the same direction towards justice, towards mercy, towards the world that God is calling us to create. And we can do that work together. We do not have to give into the despair and the hopelessness, even when it feels really big, even when we feel like the Israelites standing on the shore looking at the sea before us and the army behind us. We can hold each other up and we can remind each other that God is with us, and we just keep swimming.
Absolutely. And we each have different gifts, different skill sets, different passions and interests that those actions can look differently. Maybe you're someone who feels called to show up at city council and school board meetings, to have a voice, or maybe even to run for one of those positions to make a change in that way. Or maybe you're someone who it can just offer a compassionate presence to people in your life or around you who are at the most disadvantaged, who are struggling or suffering the most right now. Maybe you're an advocacy person or a protest person. Maybe that's your jam, or maybe that's the last thing you want to do. And instead, you would rather kind of just more be someone who's aware of what's going on, who digs into the news and can help educate others. We all have different places that God is calling us to act. But all of it is to make the world, I mean, it sounds so cliche, but the world a better place, right? I was a Girl Scout, that stuck with me. But like, we are called to bring the kingdom of God here on earth. And that means to help people's lives reflect more those values and ideals that we have been taught by Jesus. And so however we can contribute to that makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.